Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Chatham, New York, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast. I'm your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha. Welcome to our show. We are dealing with crisis, and we're studying a part of this ancient yogic literature, which talks about just that. It talks about great personalities. You could even call them the haves, like where you have the haves and the have-not. You could even call them the 1%, right? They are like kings, queens, heroes, gods, goddesses, who are all going through incredible struggles, and how they are supposed to deal with their struggle and what they do in that struggle. And so it's quite informing for us. The idea of yogic philosophy is we want some philosophy that keeps us steady when times are good and when times are bad. Why? In times of good, it's also a scary time. If any of us have had material success, we know that material success can really throw us off kilter as well. Sometimes good fortune can be the worst things for us. Sometimes in bhakti, we pray, please protect me from my desires, because we understand that our desires are not necessarily healthy desires. So it's not like times of great distress can throw us off kilter, but sometimes also the challenges and reversals in life can really throw us off course. How can I be steady in both? How can I have that sameness, that samadhi, as the sages say? And these books are supposed to be our guiding maps. These books discussed amongst people practicing bhakti, hearing from our teachers, and trying to apply it to life assures success. There may be some stumbling around. That's part of sort of the game of trying to figuring this thing out. And I think a lot of us here are finding great shelter in this book. And almost like we've been reading this now for almost 2 years, or no, almost a year and a half or so. Like last February.
A little over a year, or about a year.
Little over a year, and it's almost like we've been in preparation for this coronavirus. So anyway, if you're new to the show, welcome. We have about 78 people with us live, about 25 that could not get into the show for some reason. It could be a Zoom overload. It could be a damn Zoom overload. Everybody is Zooming there. And I'm even torn between the two. Should I do classes on Zoom? Or is this the universe telling me to stop doing anything? Stop trying to keep doing. It's like we spend my whole life doing, and now the universe says, okay, stop doing. No, I'm going to do online. So I can't tell. I'm trying to hear the signal. It's nice to not do, because you get to this place. It's like with my children. You get to this place, and this is where children grow. Children grow when they get to boredom. They have to get bored. Mom, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. Can I watch a show? Can I watch a show? And when there's a show on, they don't have to do anymore. They just get acted upon. But when the kid gets bored, that's when they start to click into and they stop their whining. That's when they click into imagination mode, and they activate a whole different part of their brain. So maybe I think, maybe I have to stop doing. Maybe I won't see you tomorrow. Anyway, if you're new to the show, welcome. And you can always reach us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Any questions there? Thursday's question day. We field as many questions as we can. And right now we're reading from a great place in this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's chapter 8, canto 1, chapter 8, text. I don't think we moved from any text yesterday. You with me, Kaustubha?
I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah, we were, we were dealing with how to react to the coronavirus yesterday.
Yeah, and we spoke of how blessings can sometimes come in the form of great pain, great loss, great suffering, and to how to see that. And then we also you were touching on this very sensitive topic brought up the other day about evil, not just reversals in life, but original evil, or is there
the problem of evil is called
the problem of evil,
and here evil meaning not
theological debate or something. The problem of evil.
Yeah.
How can there be an all-loving God, a higher power that is benevolent, if there's evil in the world? And now there's a train. What? So shall we start with our prayers? Our morning.
Let's do it.
Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tito jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering the service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So do you want to start reading, or you want to just start sharing about this, Kaustubh?
Sharing about, or you're talking about going back to the problem of evil, or you're talking about just moving on with the Bhagavatam? I'm happy to go either way.
Yeah. I'm happy with I'm happy with both. I feel like I went off on a strong tangent. I think it was Monday morning. It sort of like shook everything up, and I think you had sort of like a concept of what you wanted to speak about, and I just sort of stomped all over that.
No, you did great.
What you wrote about, what you were writing in your notes that I completely disregarded, was actually really was very relevant, and
okay.
And I feel like it's good to be spoken about.
Okay, then let's go ahead and go there. And the idea was, a few shows ago now, this question got brought up about, because if we're talking about karma, see, karma is the answer to that question. It's a philosophical, it's a logical argument that if God is all powerful and if God is benevolent, then it would appear that evil wouldn't appear in the world, because if I care about someone, then I'm going to do all that I can to prevent their suffering. And if I'm all powerful, then I should be able to prevent that suffering. And so some people will use, and that's in one sense, okay, that all adds up, right? You can put that equation together and it seems to make sense. But just like, if you're investigating a crime, there's some evidence, and the evidence may add up to something, but then you have to dig deeper sometimes. You have to get the full body of evidence. You have to consider other angles. There's more to think about. There's more to consider. And with this question of evil, and here when we use the word evil, we're not talking about I think it's an older form of the word evil, but it means something that's unwanted or something that causes misery. Then there's a deeper ways to look at it. Now we've discussed that. We have this example that Kunti's praying for suffering, right? She's praying for calamity in her life.
What?
Yeah. So she must understand that even out of the evil, even out of the misery in life, that good comes out of it. Otherwise, why is she praying for it? That there must be something good that grows out of it. So let's start there. That good comes from suffering. And we see that. And we see that, even logically, that whether it be through a prison system or even through like parental love, sometimes the love of the parent is seen as, in a sense, evil by the child. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you being so mean to me? Right? You're a parent, Raghu.
Yeah, I deal with that all the time. You're the meanest parent in the world. The kid can't understand. The kid can't understand. The teenager can't understand. You can't go out tonight, or give me your phone. And the little child can't understand. No, sorry, we're going to bed now. What? They can't understand. They think you're completely irrational. Whereas the discipline is actually out of love. But playing devil's advocate, Kaustubha, someone can understand. Okay, I can understand how. Okay, you discipline your child. You tell them to go to bed. You take your teenager's iPhone away. You tell them, and they said, you haven't studied for the test. But we're talking about the things that came up the other day were trauma, violent crime. How is that severe, severe?
Okay. And that's
that goes down. How is that a loving, benevolent parent? It's like, okay, like teach me a lesson, but really you're gonna, human trafficking. Come on. Yeah.
So let's put that aside for a second now for a minute or so, and we'll return to that. Because I think the only way that we can begin to look into that is to talk about perspective. But we heard that Kunti prayed for suffering, so we can understand there must be sometimes good, and we can see that good often comes from suffering. And we heard testimonials from our own people here. We heard from Jiva, we heard from Krishangi, who both shared stories about things that most people would have, tremendous fear of losing, amputating my legs, hard stories about street life. But both of them were sharing that, if that's what it took to get me to where I am, then I would accept it again and again, as in a sense, as Kunti's praying here. But then there's the statement, and we read from the Gita, that we are the cause of our own suffering. And I think this is the point that can be challenging on a certain level.
Yeah.
That if we accept the law of karma, we accept the idea that we are the cause of our own suffering. And we read from the 13th chapter of the Gita, 21st verse, where Krishna says that straight out, that the living entity is the cause of their own sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So that's saying that.
What's cool about that, Kaustubha? It takes our resentment of God out of the picture, resentment of our higher power. Like, why would God do this to me? When it's like, actually, you did it to yourself. Why would I do it to myself? Why would I put myself in a tragic situation? We choose insanity all the time. I've willingly called up insanity on the phone and invited them over
for a big party.
Right? Yeah, let's come on, insanity. Bring your buddy Chaos. Let's have a party. This is what we do on a regular basis. Yeah. It's like a lot of us can say that.
Sure. And so that's okay. So you just named a positive that can come out of that. But what if I throw a negative at you? In other words, if we accept the teachings of karma, and we accept that we therefore are the cause of our own enjoyment in life and suffering in life, that based on our choices in life, we bring upon ourselves in the future enjoyment or suffering, material enjoyment or material suffering are caused by our previous choices. If we accept that, and you just mentioned something good that grows out of that. But one could also say, well, some negative things could grow out of that too. There are ways that could be applied, or we could say misapplied, that increases ignorance and suffering. For instance, I may see that you are suffering, right? Here's somebody that's suffering in life. And I could respond in a callous way and say, well, that's what you get. You brought this upon yourself, so deal with it.
Right.
And particularly in cases of, trauma, that could not only be like cruel, but can also like prevent or, hinder someone's growth, hinder someone's healing through that kind of response. And also beyond just that callousness, one can develop a sense of superiority. And even that sense of superiority could lead to like oppression. Like, oh, well, people that are born this way or that way,
they have some bad karma, right?
It's because of they're bad people, right? Who make bad choices, and now they're paying for it. And I'm superior to that because I wasn't born this way or born that way. And even like socially, we can create systems of oppression based on that. And that's largely like the warped caste system of India plays on that, you know, it has played on that. People born in a certain lineage, you know, a certain family, well, let's grant them privileges based on their birth. And others, well, you know, they're meant to suffer their lot. And that's, you know, and that's their own choice. So certainly it could be misapplied. It could be applied in a way that increases suffering. It can be applied in a way, or misapplied in a way, that increases ignorance. Okay, let's accept that. No question, it can be. But that doesn't disprove it. That just shows that one needs to be careful with it, right? Sure. And one needs to dig deeper into the same wisdom literature that informs us about karma, to go deeper into that and understand that there's much there that is there to counter that kind of negative application, right? Now you mentioned something that something good that can grow out of the idea of karma, that, well, I can put aside my resentments of God and own it, like own my own choices, you know. It can instill like a sobering realization that any pain that I cause will return to me. Now that's something, if you ask me, that's something very important. That's how the law of karma can actually help relieve suffering, help relieve ignorance. If as a child even I'm trained by my parents and by broader society that, hey, move through this world in a compassionate way, and compassion will come back to you. You know, move through this world in a kind way, and kindness will come back to you. That is an idea that is actually, you know, lies at the very heart of, you know, can generate a good love, clarity, even, you know, a kind of positive activism in life. So how about if we understand karma that way? You know, and you find that in Jesus's teachings too, you know, on the Sermon on the Mount, in the, there's this, it's called the Beatitudes, you know, where Jesus is saying that, you know, blessed are the merciful, because they will receive mercy, like that. You know, that we become blessed by taking that responsibility for my own actions, and the return is that the same that we put out to the world comes back to us. You know, so there's that. And there's also the idea that this understanding of karma is meant to drive us deeper into contemplation that will reveal the true nature and the purpose of the material world. That this is a realm in which I've chosen to try to enjoy the material energy, but the material energy it's like a binary kind of thing. Wherever the material happiness comes, material suffering comes with it. And that's just the nature of it. So I have to be very careful as I move through this world. And so the law of karma can help us kind of get a grip on that. But so you can apply it well or misapply it, but neither of these are proof of whether or not it's true. You understand?
Sure.
So like, in other words, I would say, you know, if I say, well, yeah, the law of karma makes sense to me. Someone says, no, because people misapply it. That doesn't disprove it. It just shows what we need to be careful of. But what I wanted to kind of draw some attention to is, again, those same books. You take your Bhagavad Gita, you take your Bhagavatam. They don't say because people are in one sense getting what they deserve, therefore just let it be. No, they always tell us to strive to relieve suffering, you know. And maybe one of the most, you know, famous verses in the Bhagavatam about that is spoken by Lord Shiva, who says, he says, it is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. So even though someone's suffering may be due to their own choices, still you know, the way that we worship God is to try to relieve their suffering. And not only is that one way to do it, but it's said in the Bhagavatam that it's the highest way to do it. You know? So I don't know. I just wanted to address that certainly it can be misapplied. But if you take the totality of these teachings, then it shows how to apply it in a positive way, how to apply it in a way that increases compassion. Is that all right?
It is. It is. I muted myself because the train was coming by. Sometimes it's also, I don't have to think, well, I've done this or I must have done that. It's just sort of like, I got this. This is just what I got. And now what am I going to do with it? Yeah. This is what I got. Now, just like with my kids, I want the green one. I want the red one. I want the blue one. You get what you get and don't be upset. You get what you get and don't be upset. This is what I got in this lifetime. I wanted to be taller. I'm short, right? I wanted a full head of hair. I'm bald. I wanted better vision. I got glasses. I'm a train wreck. But I wanted something, and this is what I got. Now what can I do with that? You know, the thing about astrology is sometimes we want to go back into our past and find our past and recognize our past, but oftentimes we want to stay in the past. It's one thing to want to recognize how I got here, what did I do, what happened. It's understandable, and sometimes it gives us clues to the future and how to move on. But sometimes we want to just live and revisit that past and then again. And I can't move, I can't drive forward if I'm looking in the rearview mirror all the time. So part of my job is to say, this is what I got. I'm just going to go with what I got. Just as a parent, sometimes I'll tell the kids, get in the car. Just get in the car. Well, what are we doing? The parent's got a plan. We're going to go to the beach. But first I have to stop off at the bank. First I have to stop off at the get gas. First I have to stop at the food store. The kids are screaming. They're crying. Just get in the car, okay? And so it comes off. Every parent's know what I'm talking about. I don't want to explain everything to you. Why do we got to go to the bank? Ever have a kid say that? Why do we have to go to the bank? Just get in the car. Old grumpy Italian father's parenting guidebook. But it's one of those things where there is a greater plan. I can't see it because I'm short-sighted. I'm childish.
Right.
And therefore, okay, apparently I just have to get in the car. I got to go to a bank. I have to go to a gas station. What the hell do I have to be in a gas station for? This is so boring, right? We got to go to the food store. I hate the food store. Mom spends so long in that food store. Dad's in there all day. So anyway, they don't understand there is some greater plan that I can't see. And I think faith doesn't come in the form necessarily of just like, trust. It that there is a benevolent force. And you know what? It's just a better way to look at the world. It's just a better way to look at the world, that there's a benevolent force. And it can't be done unless you accept that the spirit soul is eternal. Because in this lifetime is temporary. I mean, if you believe this lifetime is only temporary, this is it. That's a pretty bleak. That's what makes you a little bit crazy. All you got to get is a little thoughtful, and you start to think, this is it. I'm about to fall in love with a bunch of things and then lose them all. That's a sucker's bet. So I think that the concept of the eternality of soul, that's not why I believe in the eternality of the soul. I actually can understand the physics behind it, or the spirit is observing the body as it's described in the second chapter of the Gita. But all this talk about being positive, it makes no practical sense if we are actually here and we die and it's over. That has to do with, and same with karma, really makes no sense, because it seems like it's just a cruel universe. But the eternality of the soul and karma, that goes hand in hand, because there's a much broader picture. And that sort of fits in with the revelations of great saints and mystics and yogis and people who have had experiences or past life experiences, which is a real tangible thing that people have had experience with, or near-death experiences, or past life regressions, or it makes sense with everything that we're speaking about.
I remember as a teenager, and I would imagine it was very much the same for you. But as I began my little spiritual quest, it was really these two concepts, karma and reincarnation, that made all the pieces just snap into place.
Sure.
You know, that now you could apply that and answer all the questions that you're getting from other spiritual traditions or just, common occurrences in life.
You know, it also extinguishes envy. Like, envy comes from, why does she have that? Why is she so fortunate? Why does he have a car when he's 16 and I have no car? This is unfair. That concept of he has what he has for some reason in your previous life. You've got some good fortune. I'm not going to be envious of that. That's just what it is. And if I want that, I have to work for it in this material world. Or why do I have what I have? There's just that I was quoting that story from the Krishna book. The kings that were kept as prisoners by Jarasandha. Jarasandha used to defeat other kings and lock them in dungeons, and he wanted to offer them to this Kali Bhairava, this very horrible form of terrible form of Lord Shiva, or scary form of Lord Shiva. And so Krishna came and Bhima defeated Jarasandha. And when Krishna liberated all these kings who were kept in dungeons, Krishna acted like we should act when people are in great pain. Oh my God, you're in great pain. What do you need? Oh my God, you're suffering. How can I help you? Oh my God, you're going through some horrible reversal in life. Let me take care of you. That's how we should act. We're in training to act like that. But the king's answer, the leader of all the other kings who was down there who approached Krishna, they just said, oh, I'm sure I'm reaping the fruits of some activities in a previous life. You need not feel bad for me, Krishna. I'm getting what I got. This is what I got. I must have done something to get me here. And now I want to thank you for freeing me. And we feel very blessed. So the king represents, in one sense, how the Bhakti-yogi feels. I have what I have. And I've got here. I don't know what it is. I might not be able to figure it out, but I got what I got. I'm not going to, it's very easy to hate your parents, hate your uncles, or hate your situation, hate your country, hate the politics. I hate the president. I'm going to hate everybody. And that does is it's a smokescreen from accepting that I may have something to do with my situation. And I know in this life, any why me mantra that spills out of my mouth is generally because of some unpreparedness on my part. I didn't take care of myself. And I find that at least for me, and there's so many different situations, it helps me cope with what I got instead of being a victim of just being a complainer. There's always something good to complain about, and it protects me from that.
Yeah, I think
complaining is suffering.
Imagine if we responded to this current crisis with that type of thought collectively, right? Like I was walking around Manhattan yesterday, right? And I can see it's
Was it empty?
What's
empty. Manhattan like right now?
Yeah, it was I don't know if ghost town would be quite right, but a lot like a ghost town. I would say
just walking around, kicking his heels together. Everybody else is
not kicking my heels, but I was observing, and like so many of the stores are closed, so many of the restaurants are closed. The little stores that are open, like there's nobody in them. Very few people on the sidewalks. Very little car traffic. And what I was bumping into people that I know coincidentally, or hearing from people on the phone. I see that we all, there is a sense of fear for sure that's out there. I think what you mentioned in the beginning of the show, like people, part of the fear is boredom, actually. I'm not going to go to work. I'm not going to see my friends. I'm not going to go to any events.
I mean, Mara's spending like 8 hours a day making vegan cheese in her laboratory.
Stocking it up.
She's hoarding vegan cheese, creating it and hoarding it.
All my events are canceled.
It's a big hit for caterers. She's a caterer, and she's got all the weddings are canceled, all the events. Her big vegan pancake breakfast was canceled.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that fear of economically. There's a fear, health wise. There's the fear just of the boredom and the isolation, the loneliness. I see all these there, and then there's that political end to it. We get driven politically, blame games and so on and so forth. And there may be a place for that. But what if this idea of karma was so deeply instilled in us that even collectively we were able to say as a group of people, because you see, this is the way that I understand karma, that by nature we are compassionate, by nature we are loving, by nature we are kind. And the law of karma works in such a way as you move through the material world, if you act contrary to that nature, then the reaction will be pain. And if you act in harmony with that nature, again, compassionate, kindness, et cetera, then you are, in a sense, rewarded with experiences of pleasure, material pleasure. And so if we're experiencing material pain, if collectively we could say, can we be living more compassionately? What is there something that we're doing that's bringing this upon us that we should correct? I'm no expert on the virus and all that, but a lot of people are drawing these parallels, and we have to be careful when we do that with karma. But that these diseases generally spring from the meat industry. That they're passed from animal to human. In through the cruel kind of systems that we have to feed ourselves. Do we need to be so cruel? Is there a more compassionate way that we could live that would help relieve this? So in any case, I do believe that the law of karma and the logic of it should lead us to introspection. It should lead us to compassion. It should lead us to kindness.
And should lead it, sure. And sort of to take responsibility. I mean, even in this world, if I'm going to a marriage counselor and I'm complaining that my husband or my wife is driving me crazy and they're not doing what I want them to do, they're not being the person that I want them to be, I don't know what her issue is, a good therapist will take us back and say, well, what's your story? What's your responsibility in this? Right. Well, you don't understand. It's all her. She's got a drug problem, an alcohol problem. She was a philanderer. And where were you that even chose a person like this? Why didn't, right? A good therapist will take you to a point where you have to admit some responsibility for what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that is the one way we find some sanity. And then if it's really a position where like, I've actually done nothing, which generally isn't always the case. Generally, there's a thin slice and a good of responsibility, and a good therapist will make us own more and more responsibility. But generally, if you feel like, no, there is actually nothing I did. I was actually a pure victim, right? Because what's that statement? Generally, there's no victims. There's just volunteers. But if you're actually not a victim, then we work on this next important phase is we forgive. We forgive we forgive what happened. Mm. And that's another part of acting externally, how the spirit wants to act internally. Acting externally with the body, with the mind, with the thoughts, how we act internally.
Thank you for that, Raghu.
Well, thank you, Prabhu. You want to get into a verse today?
Sure.
So we can literally say we've read the Bhagavatam?
Let's do it.
Okay. We are on 26.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is Kunti still speaking to Krishna.
Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 26.
Yeah. my Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but oh, I love this verse so much. But only by those who are materially exhausted. You want to approach divinity? You have to be materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Let that one sink in. Let that one sink in.
I have a question for you, Raghu, based on this verse. You ready?
That means you can't even wake up and comb your hair and Okay, go on.
So this, and I want to discuss this verse in greater depth, particularly in what's being said here, because it's listing the type of material ambitions that we have that generally prevent people from turning to spiritual life, being aware spiritually.
Yeah.
But it uses this term materially exhausted. I've had enough.
I mean, and we've said that. We've said, that band, Sick of It All. Great name. Sick of It All.
It was a great name for a band, for sure. Right?
I'm sick of it all. You ever just wake up? I'm sick of it all. Right. It's sort of like, there is nothing in this world. There's nothing to ever get to this point. There's nothing I can purchase that will fulfill this hole in my heart. There's nothing on Amazon. There's no amount of like exotic travel, right? If you still think there's like a material bucket list that will fulfill you, good luck with that. Good luck going through that bucket list. But when you get to that point of like, there's nothing here, that's when spiritual life begins.
You got to get sick of it all.
You got to get sick of it all.
You got to get sick. So here's my question. What makes you sick of it all? What makes you materially exhausted? Is there something in life where you just say, you know what? This world, I just want to go beyond it.
Are you asking me personally?
Yeah, I'm asking you personally.
Well, I think it's a different realizations you get at different points of your life. For me, it was at a young age. I had some fame when I was young. Yeah. And fame is like a big thing. A lot of people want validation from the world, especially a personality type like mine. You like people giving you accolades, and when I started getting it, I realized this is not actually good. This is not actually feeding me. This is actually making me more distressed. It's an energy like a fire that I don't know how to handle that fire, and it's burning me. And then just to analyze the world, to just think about the world, like, wait a second. And people who know my story, my father died prematurely. And for me, that was a great impetus to start to realize that, oh, I thought this world was solid. This world isn't solid. This world is like sand running through my hands. So I think when you mix like, okay, what are the perks mixed with what are the deficits? Then you start to realize, oh, wait a second. I'm going to invest all my energy, time, resources, love in something that's completely temporary. So what happens is one of two things happens. You become incredibly bitter with the material world. Like, this is bullshit. Why did I opt in for this? I don't want anything to do. I just want to check out. And sometimes we get like that too. Like, I don't want to be here. Or we start to say, you know what? There is some bigger picture in my life. And this is generally where you see the fork in the road in philosophers. They go into this existentialism, makes no sense whatsoever. We're all fabricating it. You hear people say, even nowadays, people say, it's just a story. You're just making up a story. You're just adding meaning. You're just looking for some meaning in your life. Or you actually start to see a spiritual thread tying all these random things together in your life. And you actually see the whole world has this like an invisible fish line tying all these people, these situations, these places, these great tragedies, these losses, this material good fortune. It's tying it all together for your growth, that there has been benevolent forces in your life benevolent people that have been sent to you, messengers that have spoken to you, situations that you wouldn't pray for, but that you got and you were like, wow, that was the greatest blessing. This is the fork in the road. And then this is the reason why we're up at 5 a.m. I'm jumping in the car, shoving my computer in a bag. I'm not doing this for material profit. I'm doing this because I've been affected by this. I've noticed that spiritual fish line that's tying all these random things together. And it's giving my life actually real substance, and it's exciting me. It's giving me a reason to wake up and live on Monday morning and not be not be like, thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I love Friday. I love Saturday. I love Sunday too. I love all those days. Why? Because it's a chance for me to live what I'm born here to do. So there's no more the ups and downs of the material world when you take that fork, but when you take that other fork and you might be a so-called intellectual. But the problem is that idea of this is all a story. You're making up some story. I've been living in a story. It's just a bunch of people's stories. That's a very dark place. How about if there's an actual, maybe it is all stories, but what if there's a real story? What if there's actually a real story? That's what we want to present. The Bhagavatam says, okay, maybe it's all a story. Hear this story and try to apply this story to your life and see if it works for you. Right? Some people have a story. I'm going to make a lot of money out there. I'm going to go big. I'm going to get big. Some people have a story of, I want to be philanthropical. Some people have a story of, I want to fall in love. Some people have a story of, I want to adventure in my life. Okay. The Bhagavatam says, try this story. The philosopher says, it's all a story. And the Bhagavatam says, yeah, it is all a story. We've created all these dreams, but try this one on for size. See if these shoes fit. And then tell me how they feel. And if you like it, purchase it. And what's happened is we've got a taste for it. It makes some sense. It gives some clarity in the fog. And we're trying it on. And I find in my life, to the degree that I try it on, the more comfortable it gets.
I didn't get the answer to my question.
What's that?
What makes you sick of it all?
Oh.
What is it in this
after
world?
All that, you didn't shut me down? You should have just said, okay, shut up. You're on the wrong path here.
Can you add?
What makes me sick of it all?
In other words, I'll share what makes me sick of it all.
Okay. All right.
What makes me sick of it all? Sometimes I have a deep feeling of, God, just enough of this world,
Right.
And it's especially when I see people being cruel to each other.
Yeah.
It's just like, why? And it's so pervasive, practically all pervasive. Why do we continue to live like this? Why do we go on the internet and just criticize each other? Why do we act callously to each other? It just gets to be too much sometimes, and you just say, I'm sick of it all. I'm materially exhausted. I don't think that happiness will be found through any material formula anymore. I want something beyond it. I feel that way sometimes,
I mean, politics can make me really sick of it all, if you want to know the truth. I'm so sick of politics, because it's not just blended with, I really want to do what's right. It's a lot of blended with, I really am right and they're wrong. And when hate gets mixed in with I'm right, it becomes really ugly. When hate gets mixed in with I want to do what's good, and that makes them bad. Not only bad, but I hate them to the core. That's a problem when you start hating. Hating, I'm sick. Yeah. Hating makes me sick of it all. What do you think, Mara? What makes you sick? Huh? Just trying to deflect my question.
Yeah, I was gonna let Kaustubha go.
Okay. Oh, wait, did I cut off Kaustubha?
No, not at all. I was thinking maybe we could read some of this commentary because there's a really beautiful
Sure.
point Prabhupada makes.
Sure. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences. And this is known as advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name by addressing the Lord feelingly. Oh Govinda, oh Krishna. It is said in the Shastra, or the sacred wisdom literature, that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that they are unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such a powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. There you go.
Yeah.
There's a quality to that utterance. So that's the idea. If I'm really invested in these things that are saying in the verse, that material progress, trying to prove themselves by respectable parentage. By the way, that's sort of like off track in America. We don't think it's not so much. We're like, who are your parents? No one asks that question so much. In around here, oh yeah, I guess you're right. What family are you from? Oh yeah, there's families that have been up here. Like even if you lived here for 20 years, you're a newcomer unless you're from a family that lives up here. So
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, there's just such a beautiful point here. Srila Prabhupada takes it to this. He says that these spiritual practices, like the mantras, the names of God, they are super powerful, but the effect is not so strong if we don't have the right feeling, if we don't approach with the right feeling. And so he says there's not the least bit of exaggeration that even chanting one name one time with the right feeling will destroy lifetimes of bad karma, right? But if we approach without the right feeling, so bhakti means just cultivating that right feeling, that right mood. He says, actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances. It depends on the quality of feeling. So we really have to, bhakti is about cultivating the right sentiments, the right feelings. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord. Now think about that. Think about that in terms of our current crisis, that the more stable that we feel, we may never develop the right feeling. But when our stability gets a little shaken, then we begin to realize, actually, I'm helpless.
It's like in the 12-step program, the first step, it's one of the steps. It's one of those early steps that you have to admit that you're not in control of this. It's like when that idea of getting brought down to your knees and realize I'm not in control. And that concept of control, and I can control everything due to my genius, due to my, cleverness, due to my wealth. And when we really feel like that destitution, that's when our hands can really go up and we can actually call out and exclusively take shelter in Krishna or our higher power. That's when the mantras become more powerful. And that's when there's real sincerity in the heart. Yeah. Otherwise, I think I got this. I'll figure it out. We don't got anything.
Yeah. Just see how one little virus can shake up the whole world.
The whole world, right?
Tiny little thing.
In a matter of moments. You can't even see it.
And we're thinking that we're not helpless,
And here's a great queen, a Maharani, and she is throwing up her hands and showing, here's how I'm going to react in great destitution. What am I going to do? And I mean, it's put in front of us. What am I going to do in great destitution? And there's a lot of ways we can intoxicate ourselves. We can forget. We can stick our heads in the sand. We can blame. We can be resentful. I can fight with the very people that love me because I'm frustrated. Has anybody experienced that one? You're fighting with the people that actually love you because you're frustrated with your, or we can just say, oh, Krishna, my life is in your hands. What would you like from me now? Everything seems confusing. How can I be of service? What am I supposed to do now? Please engage me.
From Nancy, she's saying, I believe that this is from the 12 steps. I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable.
I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. That is Queen Kunti right now. I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. And that is one of the qualifications you get to enter into spiritual life. One, but only those, it says in the verse, only those who are materially exhausted.
It's step number 1.
Hey, that wasn't dramatic. Thank you, everybody. We're going to tease this out. We're going to tease out the gift of pain the next few days. If you're listening to our podcast and you're new to the show, welcome. We do this every morning. We do this when we're in good health, and we do that when there's a health crisis. We do that when everything is opened and when everything is quarantined. Thanks for joining us. Wisdom of the Sages 108 at gmail.com if you want to get on our Zoom group. We had about 90 people got on today.
Yeah, 92
Carla's
I
here.
saw.
Carla, the coach, is here. She's clapping away already. And everybody's Zoom. Thanks for everybody I didn't mention because I came in late today. Dr. Louis, good to see you. Alice from Bologna. Bologna is in lockdown, but they're doing good. I reached out to a bunch of Italians yesterday. AJ Sullivan, good to see you. Anantaji. Saskia, good morning. Geneva.
Prabhu, before I forget, please accept my most humble obeisance and stay healthy.
Oh, Dr. Louis, good to hear from you, brother. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Hey, Katie Bell. Good morning. Laurie, I got to catch up with you and hear about your India adventures. Narasingha Das, welcome. Sean Murphy, vegan trucker. David Stallings. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Lauren Baptiste, Papa Tony, Dana K, Kimber, Akika G, Ananda Devi, Krishna Bolo Jai. Alex from Sweden, John Couturier.
Zoe Archer is off to the hospital saying, please pray for the healthcare workers.
Zoe Archer. Dr.
Thank you
Lassie.
for that work, Zoe.
Don Cayley Prabhu. Surya Radhika. NASA from Ireland. How's Ireland doing? NASA, right up on the board how Ireland's doing, please. Bruna Kitts, Christopher. Joe A. Clifford Dean. Dana Marie. Surya G. Susan Mason. Vivi. Isabel Fernandez and Ethan. Christina Cotumaccio. Ciao. Hey,